Love or hate him guy, the Member of Parliament for Cumberland-Colchester, Dr. Stephen Ellis. Welcome, Mr. Member of Parliament.
Well, I I don't even know what to say to that, Bill. That's classic. Hopefully, there's not too many haters out there. I don't think I've done many things that make people want to hate me. So at least that's not what I've heard at the doors as we've been out knocking on doors in many communities. Parsboro, Spring Hill, Stewiacke, Bible Hill, Oxford, Pugwash. So we've been getting around, and I apologize I didn't stop in, but I will be back to Pugwash. We didn't have much time when we were there, but certainly, I've had the opportunity to knock on, I would say, more than 1,000 doors right now. We've been busy, got a good crew, and people are still, we can talk about our difficulties with Trump all we want. Those things we can't influence that much, but things we can influence: affordability, housing, healthcare, and drug addiction in this country. And those are things that I've had the privilege as the shadow critic for health to be a part of many of those things and those discussions, and it's been an absolute privilege. So as we perhaps head into an election, the rumor mill is, if it were an actual mill, it would be making much flour. Certainly the rumor mill is going full speed right now.
It certainly is. On that point, as a matter of fact, you might get a kick out of this, but I had a call this morning just before getting ready to go on the air from George Laird, an old buddy of yours, I'm sure. And George wanted to alert me that there might be an election looming. And we chatted briefly about the fact that I was somewhat aware of that fact, and he thought it might be appropriate for me to talk to you. I told him we were doing that this morning, so we'll say hello to George while we're at it.
Absolutely. George is a great guy, and as you well know, very involved politically, and a hardworking member of my campaign team as well.
Always has been, and he's one of the good ones, isn't he? He's one of the guys you can count on him. When he says something, he means it. He's trustworthy. He's level-headed. He's all those kinds of things that we look for in people who get involved in the political life, because there are far too many today who are anything but like George. They're in it for themselves. Absolutely. They're in it for what they can get. They're in it for what they can take. There are too many people today that are ruining the recipe for good politics. And in fact, we're actually in a very difficult time. And I think that I do a daily commentary. And today's commentary, I just finished moments ago, ready to air at noon and 6 p.m. and 8 and midnight. And it's all about the fact that our democracy is in deep, deep doggy-doo right now. And we can either fight for it today or go to war for it tomorrow. And that's what we've done far too many times in this world. But having said that, and having referred to George telling us there's an election looming, it would appear that it is, any day now. What's your read?
Absolutely. I think, I would say I'm 80-20 in the sense to say the election will be called on Sunday for I believe, kind of April 28th might be the actual election day. That's the thoughts that I'm hearing. The other flip side of it, the 20% side, is that the Prime Minister will say, hey, you know what? If we go back to the House on Monday, he could have the confidence of the House and perhaps sit for a couple of weeks and then crisscross the country, improving his name over the summer. Who knows? He never asked me. No surprise there.
Mr. Carney didn't consult with you?
No.
You've got so much more experience than him. He should have asked you.
Well, I do have lots more experience with him. That's absolutely true. But as you will know, these are often closely guarded secrets. As I said, we've already been outdoor knocking. We have great machinery in place for the hundreds of people who have already asked us for lawn signs. Those are ready to go. Those signs, of course, that end up in very prominent places will be good to go on day one, and we will be out knocking on doors, in all of our communities with a van with my face on it, so it'll be visible in that sense. You'll know who it is, and I really appreciate the fact that folks do want to come to the door. When of course, when they're home, they want to come to the door. They have questions, and they have opinions, and I think that's incredibly important. So, this is a time-honored tradition, as you well know, Bill, to go out knocking on doors of folks, invading their personal space. We certainly realize that. But I think the good part is that with the information that we've been able to send out regularly on what I've been doing in Ottawa over the last 3.5 years, and the work that we've done here in our constituency offices in both Amherst and Truro for many, many folks. We send out a regular update with how many cases our workers have worked on and helped solve. So that then people know that, as you said, hopefully they understand that my job is to work for them, and it's not, praise and glory for Steve Ellis.
Well, I appreciate that, and appreciate the fact that you are personally ready in Cumberland-Colchester, but I think it's a given that your party, nationally speaking, is ready to go as well. But, of course, the idea of when to call an election is a strategic question. And the Liberals knew that they should not and did not call one with Justin Trudeau at the helm, so they waited till they could replace him. Now the replacement is there. He's looking at the tea leaves, trying to figure out what's the best day. And he has the final say, as you pointed out. So he's looking strategically to make a call that he thinks works best for his party. But when I want to talk to you about a federal election now, I'm really in deep doggy-do. I'm in trouble. You and I have talked before about the fact that your leader does not please me, but you do. And your readiness for the election and your willingness to talk and your willingness to deal with issues and so on straight on tells me that you should win this election locally, hands down. This should be yours for the taking. On the other hand, nationally, there was a time a few weeks or months ago when I would have thought that you might in fact end up as the Minister of Health because it looked like your party was going to win. Now, it looks like they're going to lose once again. And it's got nothing to do with you, nothing to do with your party's policies. It seems to have everything to do with your leader.
Well, I think that, again, I've had the opportunity, I think we've talked about this many times, I've had the opportunity to sit in our shadow cabinet on Tuesday mornings with Pierre Poilievre week after week in the last 2 years. I've obviously come to know him as somebody different. People perhaps don't like the slogans and the names he has for folks. Part of that is to try to get that message to penetrate so that people remember what's going on and the difficulties that have been created over the last 9.5 years, economically, most importantly for Canadians. Every door that I knock on, folks still tell me that the cost of living and affordability is a tremendous harm for them. And as we know from statistics, $200 is what separates Canadians from being totally broke at the end of every month on average. And that's a significant number. We also know that, the payment of the servicing, as we call it, on the national debt is now $1 billion with a B dollars a week, which is more than the Canada Health Transfer. And I guess what I would say to folks out there is Pierre Poilievre is a guy who cares deeply about his country, about his family, and about the future of Canada as well. I think that for me is incredibly important. As you know, I had the opportunity to serve in the Royal Canadian Air Force, and I am deeply committed to this country and to Cumberland-Colchester. This is my home. I want us to prosper. I've had the opportunity to work on the healthcare file, which I believe we have the opportunity to make significant and long-lasting change that is going to benefit Canadians inside the system that we now have, with 6.5 million people without the ability to see a primary care provider across the country. And as I look at those opportunities for us, there's opportunities to work with Tim Houston's government with respect to energy costs. As you well know, energy costs in this province are some of the highest in the country at 19 cents a kilowatt hour. We have an opportunity with the policies that we will bring forward with respect to things like energy corridors and there's something we announced today called shovel-ready projects, meaning that if someone needed to open a lithium mine, for example, in Nova Scotia, the land surrounding it would already be pre-approved for that project, so that people aren't waiting around and waiting around and waiting around. And I think I mentioned to you before, Bill, I ran into a lawyer that represented a mining company, and in this country, it took 20 years to approve a copper mine. And I didn't tell him who I was. I didn't say I'm a conservative politician. I just asked because he knew the answer, and I wanted to know for sure, because we often talk about it in the House of Commons, and sometimes, as you know, there's some hyperbole there of how long things take. And, I think it's important to reach out for those answers on our own. And so those are things that are incredibly important to me. And for me, the other thing I'll say to folks is style or substance. And what do I mean by that is, if you do not like Pierre's style, that's one thing. Tell me what of substance that he says that you do not like. And I'm happy to debate that, those policy matters anytime. I only have the opportunity, as you know, to win one of the 343 seats. And that's what I intend to do, is to work hard. Hopefully I've earned the trust of voters in Cumberland-Colchester to know that I can be trusted to go and represent their points of view.
No, and all of what you've just said is absolutely true, and I don't question that one bit. And as I said, I believe very, very deeply from my heart that you are already in the hearts and minds of voters, and very likely going to be returned to office. I fully expect that. But I know that you and your colleagues in the Conservative Party nationally were hoping to take over the government. And over the last number of years, in each federal election, we were all kind of poised to see that happen. And somehow at the last minute, the Liberals were able to pull the rug out from under, and all the while pointing the finger at your leader. And whether we like it or not, we have a style of electioneering in Canada today where it's all about the leader. And all of that began, ironically, with Pierre Trudeau. He was the one that set the wheels in motion for the personality contest, and we've been pitting the personality of the leader against each other to determine who becomes prime minister. And in many, many places, they make the local decision based on the leader. We don't. We make the decision based on the local candidate. And with that in mind, as I say, I think you are safe. But at the national level, you say, is it what he says or how he says it? But it's how it's received, or better still, how it's perceived by the voter. And the fact of the matter is, I think the Conservatives have lost the federal election already. Not you, but the majority.
Now I'm going to be mean, Bill. Is this an interview, or is this Bill's opinion 10 minutes?
Well, you said that once before when I went on my tirade, but I'm trying to explain how. Now you cut me off last time. I'm not going to let you this time. I'm just trying to say to you, I'd love to have a conversation with you, but I don't know how to deal with it in the context of a leader that is perceived by, I say, a majority to be not the guy they want. That's what I'm saying.
I guess my only criticism to you, Bill, is you do have your opportunity to give your opinion. It's your show. You do. You obviously are going to have your opinion at noon. You can continue to do that. But, I would suggest perhaps people would like to hear a back and forth, because you have had your say about this many, many, many times. I know that you don't like Pierre Poilievre. That doesn't bother me a bit. Lots of people, as you said, there's lots of people that don't like other people. There's lots of people that don't like Prime Minister Mark Carney. That's fine. The question is, because otherwise we're going to go down a very dangerous road of American politics. If we really believe that we are going to, quote unquote, elect a president here, that's not how the Westminster system of government works. It does not work that way. You know that, and I know that. And I guess that you want to continue to focus on Pierre Poilievre is you know what? I guess I'll be honest. I feel like it's a disservice to Canadians and to your listeners, because that's very American-style politics. What we have, and you know this better than I do, perhaps because you've been at it longer, is that in the Westminster style of government, we elect people that we believe will be able to sit at those incredibly important tables, who also have the ability to interact with business leaders locally to ensure that there's growth for our communities, that have compassion, to work with local residents of Cumberland-Colchester who understand deeply their issues, who have lived the lives that they have lived. And again, I would suggest to you that I'm ideally suited to do that. You know what? Again, whoever the leader is, that's for me, that's somebody that I must work with. I must work with the leader of our party. I've been doing that. I can do that. Pierre Poilievre respects the opinions that I give him. I spoke to him, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before. I gave him very frank advice to say, hey, this is how it's going. Some folks want you to be more prime ministerial. Some folks don't like the nicknames that you have for people. But what I don't hear out there, and again, that's my comment about style over substance, is really related to, is there something about the substance of what he says? Because all I hear is criticism of how he says it. And these policies that we are bringing forward, and I'll be part of the healthcare announcement on the national stage, so that folks understand very clearly that the policies we will bring forward, perhaps most specifically on healthcare from my perspective, are policies that will support the work being done at the provincial and territorial levels across this country. And they will support the ideas of the medical regulatory authorities, who are the folks that will give licenses, to grant licenses to vetted internationally trained physicians and nurses and other healthcare providers with experience, for example. So as I look at that, again, I'll go back to the style over substance to say, I understand you don't like his style. Maybe you don't like him. I don't know. That doesn't matter to me. What really matters, again, is that local representation. That is what allows us to have very effective voices in Parliament and sitting around those incredibly important decision-making tables in Ottawa, but also to have the respect of local business leaders that I have reached out to and across many sectors, whether it be healthcare or energy or business in general, to say these are the ideas that we will have going forward, and to have folks in those sectors to say thank you. Thank you. We know that you're a trusted voice. We know that your ideas align with what we need to do to make life more affordable, to make healthcare more accessible, and to improve the daily living situation of people who live rurally here in Nova Scotia, most importantly in Cumberland-Colchester. So, again, this, and I know that the Westminster style of government does not elect a prime minister. By default it does, but that's not whose name is going to be on the ballot. And again, I guess that you want to continue to talk about that issue. Is it an issue? I don't know. You know what?
Yes,
I don't
it
know.
is.
But my job is not to be out there defending Poilievre, if that's what you want me to do.
No.
My job is to represent the interests of the folks here in Cumberland-Colchester, and in essence, I guess, you know what? And not because it's a negative thing for me, but because you've said it before. I understand that you don't like him. Oh, that's fine. You don't like who he is. That quite frankly, Bill, I don't care.
That's not my point.
What I care about are the issues here. If you don't like his style, that's fine. I'm happy to debate the policies any single day you want.
Absolutely.
But I don't want. Listen, I don't want to go back to the personal stuff, because that's not the style of campaign that I will run. I'm not going to take personal shots at whoever the Liberal candidate is or the NDP candidate. We never did that last time. We will not do it this time. That's not my style. I don't want to. If you want to continue to discuss that, I don't want to talk about somebody's personality.
I agree.
I want to talk about the substantive issues that I hear at the doors of the 1,000+ doors that I've knocked on already: affordability, housing, healthcare, all of those issues that are incredibly important to the folks out there. And I'll say this again, just to be clear: if we're not discussing those, we're doing a disservice to our listeners, and I don't want to do that anymore.
I appreciate that, and that's not my point. And here's my point. For the last number of elections, Canadians have been poised to elect a Conservative government, and at the last moment found they didn't do so. It's become a personality contest ever since the first election of Pierre Trudeau. And
only if we continue to allow it to be.
Well, Ed, I didn't make it happen.
I'm trying to stop you from doing that because I don't want it to be a personality contest.
And I didn't make it happen in the 60s, 70s, and so on. But we've continued ever since. And here's my point: we've had a succession of liberal governments that promised one thing and did another, and people are fed up with it. They're tired of it. They want an alternative. They keep looking to your party to be that alternative, and for one reason or another, they can't bring themselves to do it. You're right. You will be elected for all the right reasons. You're right. Your policies and platform issues and so on are what Canadians want to hear. But unfortunately, like it or not, they're not getting through. And what the issue is then on the parliamentary system we have today is whether Stephen Ellis will be sitting on the opposition side or the government side. You will be there, sir. What's at issue is what side of the house you're going to sit on. That's what I'm trying to get through to you. It won't be your fault.
But Bill, it'll only continue to be an issue if we all allow it to be. And I guess what I'm suggesting to you is that we need to rise above that, all of us, to say, you know what, here's the policies. It's the policies of the last 9.5 years of the Liberal government that has gotten the affordability crisis to where it is. They have not addressed healthcare on the national scale one iota, other than suggesting they're going to throw money at it. That doesn't work. You know that. It has to have substantive change, and the things that I've talked about and the ability that I've had to open the doors to talk to stakeholders who are also decision makers inside the healthcare system, those are the things that in my opinion, we should be talking about here. Again, the personality things is really related to you like someone or you're not. I didn't do politics to do that. I hope people like me in the sense that they don't find me abrasive. But that being said, what I'm doing is trying to hear what people say and how does that translate into good policy. And for me, that's what is important. Again, I'll make it clear on a local level. I'm not going to have a campaign where I'm going to personally attack the other candidates. As I said, we did not do that last time. We will not do that this time.
And that's why you will win.
Well, you know what? I hope it's the policy and the thought that I've been able to open many doors and represent the concerns of folks here locally.
All of the above.
That's my hope. You know, and again, I don't. Quite frankly, and again, not because it's difficult for me or troublesome, I don't want to talk about people's personalities, whether it's Pierre Poilievre's or Mark Carney's or Justin Trudeau's. I don't want to talk about that. I don't. Because that's not helpful to the person who can't afford to go to the grocery store and buy groceries, who can't afford to put gas in the car or home heating fuel in their furnace. That's what I want to talk about, and I want to talk about those solutions that I've been able to sit at those decision-making tables and bring forward. If that's what you want to talk about, great. I don't want to talk about personalities anymore. I'll just be honest with you.
Appreciate it. I don't want to have to talk about it either, but when I vote for you, I want you to be in a position to carry out your policies, and you can only do that if you end up winning on the government side.
That's not true. That's not true. You know what? We sat in Health Committee and we debated for one meeting every week for an entire year the concept of safe supply. And you know what? We had members of our team that worked incredibly hard to understand what the truth was behind the Liberal-supported concept of safe supply, giving high-potency opioids, narcotics, specifically Dilaudid, to Canadians who are suffering with addiction. In my mind, that is palliative care. There's no other treatment for you. I'm just going to give you the drugs you want. And guess what? We then figured out, because we talked to people and we had the trust of them, that those drugs were being diverted. They were being sold to people who previously didn't even have addiction issues, so that person who was able to access a safe supply, they then were able to buy more potent drugs that they wanted. And guess what happened? The Liberals and the NDP government of BC had to stop that program because of the amount of diversion that was happening, which then specifically led into the uncovering of these fentanyl labs. We also debated the issue of mammography, screening mammography for women under 50. We figured out that the Preventive Task Force on Healthcare in Canada used data that is incorrect. It's improper. It's outdated. And you know what? The Minister of Health, who's now since quit, Holland, has had to go to that task force and say, stop your work. What you're doing is wrong. And that women aged 40 and over need to have access to screening mammography because it saves their lives. It detects cancer at earlier times. So to say that we have to sit on the government side to make, no, we don't.
You don't have. You can win some things along. Yeah, you can win some things along the way, Stephen.
Right. And when these folks are not honest and their policies are not good, guess what? We have the ability to stop those policies and make life better for Canadians.
Stephen, thank you for those ones. Thank you for those ones that you won, that you were able to convince the Liberals to change. But look at the very fact of the carbon tax. Look at the ethical breaches. Yeah. Look at the money given to friends and family.
The carbon tax.
You didn't change it. Carney changed it.
Yeah,
you made it so uncomfortable for them. They knew that they couldn't run and win with Trudeau. They couldn't run and win with a carbon tax. So they picked up the former Bank of Canada so they can talk economic issues now, the same as you've been talking about. That's what I'm worried about. You can get some things done in opposition, no question. But the heavy-weighted objects that have impeded the lives of Canadians for the last number of years, they're still in the way as long as the Liberals are sitting there, and that's why people are saying, I wish we could get everybody to see that the Conservative are offering candidates from top to bottom that can do the job, and the top doesn't have the perception that he can. That's the regrettable part. And you know what? Well, we're likely going to have an election, so we won't get a chance to talk again for another month or so, but we've almost done enough today to make up for it.
Well, listen, my friend, I always appreciate the candor with which you and I can have an important conversation on behalf of those folks who choose to listen. And again, I hope that people perceive that even if there are things that you and I disagree on, that we do it respectfully. I haven't hopefully done damage to that relationship, and that folks understand that a respectful discourse allows differing opinions to get forward.
It does indeed. And this may shock you, and it certainly may shock some listeners who think that I'm a newsman and a newsman has to be neutral. This is not a news program. This is an opinion program. And I'm saying this. I'm cheering for you. I really am. Because I've witnessed what the Liberals have done federally, and it's whatever they want to do for themselves, not for us. They need to go. And every time I think you've got a chance to dump them this time, something happens. And that's what I'm expressing here today. The perception of your leader might be that very something that will stop us once again. Thank you for being here, my friend.
One seat at a time, my friend.
Thank you.
One seat at a time.